Joining us now is Okpe with stories trending around the world. Hello, Jinika.
Good morning, Dr. Bati.
Jinika.
How come it never gets old?
No, it never does.
Does it? Really? No, it never does. Good morning, Tudu.
Morning, Oji. How are you?
Doing good, thank you. Good morning, Rufai.
Good, excellent as always.
Great. You look great, Rufai.
Thank you.
Did you compliment him this morning? I thought I heard that.
Because you were Fusha.
Yes,
Fusha
yes,
always
yes.
gets a
Thank you.
compliment.
Well, all right. Good morning to you, viewers. Here are some of the stories that are trending across the globe. In the United Kingdom, a royal expert has claimed that the Duke of Sussex, Prince Harry, is demanding an apology from the royal family over what he perceives as the mistreatment of his wife, Meghan Markle. In the United States, fans of rapper DMX held a prayer vigil outside a suburban New York hospital just days after reports the musician and actor suffered a heart attack following a drug overdose. In Nigeria, reports of President Muhammadu Buhari's official driver, Saidu Afaka, dying after a prolonged illness at the State House clinic has made the rounds. And reactions trail as a new Yoruba group plan a mega rally for a separate nation in Ibadan, the Oyo State capital. Under sports, North Korea has withdrawn from the postponed Tokyo Olympics due to concerns over the COVID-19 pandemic, making it the first country to pull out of the delayed event, which is now scheduled to open on July 23rd. And an 8-month-old pregnant mixed martial artist, Aminat Idris, wins the gold medal for Lagos State at the ongoing National Sports Festival in Benin, Edo State. Finally, under entertainment, an artist named Wisegood has allegedly been making 30 million naira monthly since October 2020 by remaking Afrobeat singer Wizkid's songs on Apple Music and Amazon. And Meghan Markle and Prince Harry's announcement of their first Netflix series, Heart of Invictus, which will follow players competing at the 2022 Invictus Games, tops the trend. Well, let's begin what's trending with reactions to the statement made by the Minister of Interior, Rauf Aregbesola, who on Tuesday announced that fugitives that escaped from the custodial center in Owerri, the Imo State capital, will be pardoned if they return voluntarily. The minister made this known while inspecting the correctional center following an attack on the facility by gunmen in the early hours of Monday. Well, according to the minister, unlawful escape from custody is a crime, but the federal government, in its magnanimity, will grant amnesty to the prisoners who willfully return. Well, many users have shared mixed reactions. Before I take a tweet, Rufai, I think this is a great gesture, but I wonder what form of pardon this will take. I also wonder if they would pardon the 35 inmates that stayed behind as well. These are the questions a lot of people are asking at this point.
Our country has become a joke. It's sad. Prisons. We can't even protect our prisons. People get out of jail, and now you're saying they're pardoning them. And the good question is how? What? Where? How is this pardon going to take? In the first place, you should protect those prisons. We should never have hoodlums invade the first time. The last time this happened, we said, it was NSAS. They were overrun. But now this is happening. And you just think by saying the word pardon, they will run back, they will come back. Because we've developed a very porous society over the years, and let's own up to it. We remember the case the last time somebody got out of jail that went to kill who testified against them. If they're criminals, are they not supposed to be kept away? Why would the prisons even be overrun in the first place? Let us deal with those issues. My problem is, every day, we throw the baby away with the bathwater in this country. Oh, that's a palliative. We'll pardon them, so come back. You think they'll come back after they've tasted freedom? Yes, some will come back because they don't want, this to escalate. But do we have mechanism in place to be able to track each and every one of them? Do we even have accurate data of all of those prisoners? In the prisons that are overcrowded all over the country, over 2,000 men got out of town. We can't even track them. I heard a story, correct me if I'm wrong, I heard some are even calling the prisoners to come back, the prisoners that stayed back. How did they even get forced in the first place? to be able to make those phone calls, to call the other ones to come back. It is time for us to deal with the pertinent issues in the country. Ineffectiveness. Never ascribe to malice what you can explain with effectiveness. Our prison systems have not been adequately run. So all of this palliative of thinking they're going to come back, oh, we're going to pardon you, it's not going to make them come back. The system is warped. We should invest more in that and ensure speedy dispensation of justice. Because even when you check, why are those prisoners there in the first place? Most of them will be awaiting trial.
Right.
These are the problems on ground we should tackle, not pardons. Come back. And you think they'll come back? Voila, genie out of the bottle. Please just come back, come back.
Well, 6 of them did come back, but Dr. Batsi, you go first.
Okay, yeah. The way the papers have reported the story, that the Minister of Interior, or Minister of Internal Affairs, we call it, right, or Interior, has offered the prisoners who escaped from the Owerri correctional facility pardon. But that pardon needs to be defined. The pardon is not for the original crimes committed.
Exactly.
For which they were serving, their time in jail. The pardon is for the act of breaking jail.
Yes, that's what I said.
So if you run away from prison, you have committed an additional offense.
Yes, but they're going to
if they
waive that.
return, yes, they will serve.
Right.
They will continue to serve their time.
Yeah.
They will not be convicted for the additional crime offense committed in terms of breaking jail. And I think that what the Minister of the Interior is trying to do is to make sure that these hardened criminals who want to escape, will reconsider their positions because they pose a threat to society. It's just like a way of encouraging them to come back. Now, even when there was that attack on the prison, it was not all of them that escaped. Some stayed back,
Yes.
even in spite of that
35.
incident, and refused to leave.
Yes.
Okay.
So
So
will
if
they
the
get
minister,
some sort of
if the
incentive?
minister
Yes.
is offering some kind of incentive
Yes.
to the ones that escape, well, would there be an incentive also
was my
by the
question.
Nigerian government for those that stayed behind,
yes.
who understood that okay, they had committed a crime, they were serving a jail term, and they would rather stay rather than run away. However, after all of this, some that escaped have also returned. And the expectation is that perhaps the strategy adopted by the government will work, that some of them would return. But the bigger challenge, the bigger thing to focus on is the fact that the Nigerian government, the president, the governor of Imo State, and the Minister of the Interior, and even the police, through the now former Inspector General of Police, have been given the assignment, or have said that all those people who escape, will be rearrested. And I think that that's where we should focus on.
Yes.
The police and other agencies, they have a duty to make sure that all the criminals that have escaped are brought back. That's the path of justice administration.
All right.
That's what is important, to protect the rest of society
Right.
that could be at risk.
All right, before I take your comment, we'll have to go on a short break. And when we come back, what's trending on the morning show will continue. Welcome back to the morning show. We're still on What's Trending to New. Before we went on a break, we were discussing the Minister of Interior statement where he mentioned that the federal government will pardon prisoners that escaped from that Imo Correctional Center.
Well, it's just always very important to read beyond the headline and to be less sensationalist in the way things are reported. What he said precisely was that what is being pardoned is the offense of jailbreaking,
Yes.
not the original offense that put them in prison in the first case. That is not going to be pardoned because, of course, we all understand the way the law works. If there's a victim, there needs to be some kind of penalty. There needs to be some kind of restitution. There is no magic wand that will be waved just because they came back. And it's expected that he would say that. I think it's in order that he did say that. And so far, 6 people have returned. That's really a drop in the bucket when you think of over 1,844 people who escaped, to be precise. Only 6 have returned so far, but at least 6 have returned. And we do hope that it works to incentivize others.
Do you think that it would, though?
I hope so. We can only hope, because you don't really want to be looking over your shoulder the rest of your life. Because even though we're talking about criminals now, some of them not convicted, many of them I'm sure are waiting trial. Just the
added pressure of knowing that you're being hunted. A lot of people might not be able to live with that. So this is why I think it's in order that this is on the table. Hopefully, it will encourage others to come back. But beyond that, those who perpetrated this attack with the kind of sophisticated weapons that they used need to be found. It's not enough that the prisoners return, if at all they do.
Yeah, so while I was asking about the type of incentive, though, I'm hoping, because some of those criminals are awaiting trial. I wonder if that would, it would help to just push their trial date and just, have them know their status.
I hope so.
I just don't know the incentive. I don't know what kind of pardon it would be. I'm hoping that would help as well.
The burden is on the law enforcement authorities to do their job, to make sure that those persons are, tracked now and rearrested and be made to face the wrath of the law.
Correct.
But the Minister of Interior cannot go beyond just say, okay, if you come back, we probably will not take it against you. But, as for the convicted persons under the Constitution, only the President has the powers to grant a pardon, right? Under the principle,
or the Attorney General.
The prerogative of mercy. There's a committee on the prerogative of mercy that can recommend to the President, and then the President or the state governor, if it's a state offense, would then grant that pardon.
Or the Attorney General,
or the Attorney General can enter a nolle prosequi within the purview of the Constitution. So these are the terms. But what the Minister of Interior has done is in order to protect society from these hardened criminals who may think that having escaped, they will suffer another punishment. They will face another trial.
All right.
Okay?
We'll take another story.
Okay.
The Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami, has come under intense criticism for saying that former Vice President of Nigeria, Atiku Abubakar, is not eligible under the Constitution to contest for the seat of the office of the President. The AGF, who filed a suit before the Federal High Court in Abuja, argued that Atiku will be violating the Electoral Act in the event that he contests for the topmost seat of the nation because he was not born by Nigerian parents or born as a Nigerian. He argued instead that the former vice president was born in the town of Jada, in the northern part of Cameroon in 1946, before the town was incorporated into Nigeria. And so he only became Nigerian by virtue of the 1961 plebiscite that merged people from the town of Jada into Nigeria. The AGF added that his parents even died before the 1961 plebiscite. Well, many Nigerians have shared their opinion on what it means to be Nigerian. This is quite frustrating, Rufai. Knowing that the vice president, he was a vice president, for crying out loud. And a lot of people are saying it is so political at this point. And why is it at this point that they are, filing this suit all over again, Rufai?
I'm shocked at the way we play politics in this country. This was a man that rose to the highest heights in the customs in this country. This was a man that first vied for presidency in 1993, if my memory serves me right, SDP. That just convention went ahead to be elected governor of Adamawa State. And from there, he had not served his term before he became vice running mate for Olusegun Obasanjo, was vice president for 8 years in this country. He's run for president a couple of times since then. All of a sudden, because we want to play politics now, he's not Nigerian. So I want to ask, please, Attorney General, who is a Nigerian? What makes a Nigerian a Nigerian? Yeah. If somebody has been vice president of this country is not Nigerian enough for you, because of some statute, that this argument was first made when we had, that long drawn-out case at the election tribunal. But because we want to play politics now, we bring that back to the fore and we start to talk. Oh, a certain area was not part of Nigeria. It was under German territory and the likes. 1960 became part of Nigeria. And this person is not Nigeria, has run for position in this country, stayed in this country, aspired to the highest heights. He wasn't told when he became a member of staff of the Customs Service, or he entered the Customs Service, that he was not Nigerian. He rose to the height of Customs. When he was vice president, he wasn't told he was not Nigerian. But all of a sudden now, because we want to play politics and it's easy for us, the narrative, to tell, we're saying somebody is not Nigerian. So I'd like to ask, who is Nigerian?
Right.
Because
a lot of people are asking that question.
Maybe because in the end, very soon, Maybe if I aspire for political position, somebody will tell me that I'm not Nigerian. They will tell me probably Otogbolu when I was born.
So you want to know ahead of time, Rufai?
Yeah.
Okay.
So who is Nigerian?
Right.
Please.
Well, let me take a tweet from Solomon, who wrote Section 309 of the 1999 Constitution. The more offensive part of this argument for me is how the AGF and his government do not realize that this argument does not affect only Atiku, but targets millions of Nigerians and a swath of Nigerian territory. For politics, Dr. Abati, God forbid.
Okay, I mean, what we're dealing with is citizenship law.
Yes.
And the Nigerian constitution is very clear about the ways in which you can be a citizen of Nigeria. Citizenship by birth, which is at question in this particular case. Citizenship by registration. Citizenship by naturalization. And, I think those are the main categories. And citizenship by birth, which is the issue in this particular case, that is before the court. If either of your parents is a Nigerian, you are a Nigerian. If you were born in Nigeria, you are a Nigerian. If at some point your parents became Nigerians, you are also a Nigerian. And of course, the other categories apply under the Constitution. What chapter is that? Chapter 3. Chapter 3 of the 1999 Constitution provides the details. It will be pedantic to go into the details here. Now, in the case of former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, I think that, yes, there is politics involved. You recall that this came up after the 2019 general election, and the matter was raised about whether or not Vice President Atiku Abubakar is a Nigerian. And the matter is before the court. We will not comment on it further because it is the job of the jurist in charge of the case to determine the outcome, so that it doesn't look like we are doing the work of the court for it. Now, at the end of the day, whatever the court comes up with will be, an interpretation of the law. But yes, there is a very strong political element in this particular case, and I think that's very clear to the ordinary man. But this is not the first time that this will happen in Nigeria. Before now, there was this case of a man called Abdurrahman Shugaba, a politician from the northeastern flank, who was said not to be a Nigerian. And, it ended up that this was clearly a case of political victimization. And it was established that, the man was a Nigerian and it was just all politics. So this time around, that precedent may informed, the court in determining the outcome of the Atiku case with regard to citizenship. Now, the fourth point to be made is the tweet that you read, that when there was that plebiscite in 1961 by referendum, and a part of Nigeria decided to go to Cameroon, another part of Cameroon decided to stay within Nigeria. Although the people who went to Cameroon, I'm not too sure they are happy about that today, because they even want their own republic now. They want to form the Ambazonian Republic because of the discrimination against them in Cameroon. So there were many Nigerians who were originally Cameroonians. But after that plebiscite, which was a creation of law, came to the Nigerian side. So these are some of the issues I think that the court will look at. But of course, to speak as an ordinary person, I think this is just all politics. But that is without prejudice to the decision of the court in the matter.
You will not be alone in that.
Yes, I also have a case of deja vu. We've seen this before. And the only thing I have to add to what Rufai and Dr. Abati has said is just this buttresses the argument of those saying that there should be a separation between the Office of the Attorney General of the Federation and the Office of Minister of Justice. That's Section 150 of the Constitution. That needs to be amended because this is so clearly partisan, is so clearly political. There was an argument by some pro-Atiku campaigners that this is all based around Malami's presidential ambition for 2023. I don't know how true that is. It would not be the most ridiculous suggestion that I've heard so far for 2023, but it is politicizing that exalted office. That's the only minister of the Federation that's recognized by the Constitution. Surely we should not stoop to these depths.
Right. Yeah, I think the point, yes, you have a strong point there, that there's this argument on the table that we need to separate the office of the Attorney General and the office of the Minister of Justice. Because the Attorney General is the leading law officer in the country, is the chief law officer. And that's why that position is recognized in the Constitution. The Minister of Justice works for the President.
He's in the cabinet, yeah.
Okay,
like
so there's that conflict in terms of how whoever is there balances the role.
Right.
But what we have seen over the years is that, look, it depends also on the individual that is appointed to be able to know that his job as Attorney General or Minister of Justice is to follow strictly the law and not to use the law to intimidate people or to victimize people.
All right.
And every lawyer is regarded as an officer in the temple of justice, okay? And there are expectations in terms of, that position. But where you find many lawyers who behave like, they don't even know any difference between a criminal and a legal officer. So that's part of the problem we have in Nigeria. It's also a question of personality, okay? But this is a matter that is before the law court. And, we will expect that the court will offer a proper interpretation because the court, the judge is not expected to jump into the arena, of the matter that has been brought before it.
All right. We'll take another story in Kogi State, where two young men who were flogged for protesting against President Muhammadu Buhari by painting Buhari Must Go Graffiti on a fence have caught the attention of the state's Commissioner for Information, Kingsley Fango, who showered praises on the residents for putting a stop to the alleged campaign against President Muhammadu Buhari in the state. Well, let's take a quick look at this video before we come back for a discussion.
Clean. Now that most, don't be honest. If you have to come out, clinic. Stand well. You guys are not flogging. Jesus sent you. Take your Buhari minute. Where not you now? If you want to be free, they cut out for them and they chop.
I guess we'll have to discuss this when we come back for a break, but it is so appalling that the state's Commissioner for Information would praise these people for dehumanizing these young boys who were exercising their right. I mean, we'll come back for more on what's trending. Do stay with us. Welcome back to the morning show. We're still on What's Trending. Dr. Abati, before we went on a break, we were discussing that video of those two people, young men that were flogged in Kogi State for exercising their right. I know that they painted a graffiti, which is obviously against the law, but they were carrying placards too. So, I mean, I don't understand what happened there with the Minister for Information statement.
Okay, I'll be very brief,
yes,
because I know you have another story.
Yes.
Yeah, you are dealing with a number of elements. The first is the freedom of speech, the freedom of expression. There's no law that says every Nigerian must support a sitting government. Those young men were carrying that placard, Buhari Must Go, simply because they needed to express their frustration.
Right.
Now, another element that I've seen in this story is, the fact that they defaced the wall. There's an extension of the video that showed their attackers asking them to paint that wall back. Right, you have the right to protest, basic. You have the right to express yourself, second. But you do not have the right to vandalize other people's property or to deface people's property. We see many buildings where they will say, don't paste poster or whatever. So if you do that, then that's an extension of your right. Because where your right begins, it must not start where the right of another person starts. Okay, so we make that clear. The role of the commissioner, you talked about the commissioner. The commissioner made very serious allegations. He said, for example, that those protesters are not from Kogi State. They are from Benue. Look, they can come from anywhere.
Exactly.
They are Nigerians. They don't have to come from Kogi State. Does it mean that if a Nigerian goes to Kogi State, then his fundamental human rights under the Constitution
No,
will
he said Kogi State is an APC state. So everybody in Kogi State
whether it is APC or PDP, Nigeria is an open space. You can go and express yourself wherever you want. He also alleged that the protesters are from Benue. That will have to be proven. And he went for that to say that, these protesters are being sponsored by one politician from the South. Now, I'm a public communicator, a spokesperson, should not be that reckless. And then he went for that to say that Buhari is a national leader, is a man with an ideology that protects the poor and the weak. Well, certainly, those protesters don't agree with that point of view. So these are the issues here, and it's a further projection of Kogi as a place where there is intolerance for free expression. And it is sad that this has occurred at a time when in the UK, in London, we have had people who have been saying Buhari should leave the hospital where he is, and another group also went there and said, oh no, Buhari must stay in London. So at the end of the day, it's free speech. Perhaps the president would choose to remain in London. That would be the expectation of some Nigerians. But if he comes to Nigeria, that will also be in keeping with the expectation of other Nigerians. We should allow all flowers to bloom, all shades of opinion to progress, because that is the way it should be in a democratic society.
Well said, Dr. Batitundu.
Well, Kogi State under Yahaya Bello has hardly been a bastion of democracy and free speech, now has it? But for me, I see this completely differently from you.
Okay.
I don't see young men exercising their rights at all. I see vandalism while holding placards.
That's why I said.
I don't see protesting while committing vandalism. What I see is a vandalism, because that could have been my house, it could be your house. Because you're disgruntled with the government does not give you the right to go and deface another person's property. That is criminal damage, and they could get done for that. So that has to be clear. Now, that issue about whether they were imported from Benue or Malaysia or wherever, for me, is utterly irrelevant, quite frankly. As you've said, everybody has the right to hold a political opinion, but you do not have the right to go and smear somebody's wall.
Yeah, that's
Absolutely
different. Yes, and they could get punished for that, but not in that manner. All right, we'll take our final story in China with this beautiful human angle story about a woman who discovered her long-lost daughter was her son's bride on their wedding day. The woman was reported to be able to recognize her daughter, from whom she had been separated from many years ago, by the birthmark on her hand on the day of the ceremony. She was then prompted to ask the bride's parents if their daughter had been adopted. The parents were taken aback by the question before saying that they had adopted the child after finding her by a roadside over 20 years ago. The wedding was able to go ahead after it was established that the woman's son, the groom, had been adopted, meaning they were entirely unrelated to each other. Rufai, how amazing is this story?
I mean, it's a very beautiful story. It's a story of recovery.
Yes.
It's a story that shows that there's light at the end of the tunnel,
Yes.
that if you think you've lost something great, you might just find it. And that's why we should be hopeful, in life. But for me, the ending was a little bit, I don't know what to say. But let me just focus on the positive part.
Right.
Because there are a lot of parents that have lost their children one way or the other.
Correct.
They don't know where their children are as we speak at this point in time. And they've been looking for their children. In fact, there are shows on television that help you just find your long lost child. And they trace it back. Some people even want to go back in history times and discover their lost uncle or sister and all of that. There used to be a show in England there called Who Do You Think You Are? That traces your history backwards and makes you find people, relatives that you might have lost. So this is a very happy one, a very cheering one. But the fact that bride was her son's bride-to-be, I don't know.
Well, they are totally unrelated. I mean, it's beautiful all way around. I mean, because the son actually is adopted. So her son is abducted. So they both could get married. It was beautiful to see.
So
very beautiful.
2 over 4.
Yes.
The woman is lucky. It's one for the price of 2. She's got 2 children getting married. And good for them.
Children.
But most importantly, the emotional part for me is the fact that after so many years, you can find your child again. That recovery, it's really key for a time like this, where a lot of people are dealing with heartache and COVID and all of that and hopelessness. It just shows that there's light at the end of the tunnel. Whatever you're going through, this too shall pass.
Yeah, it made me so happy.
And there's always something positive at the end.
Tundu.
Truth is often stranger than fiction. There's no screenwriter that could beat this kind of story.
I know.
And at least we now know there's one bride in the world who will never have problems with her mother-in-law.
Yeah. Oh.
Tundu, you have
No,
to go
you
there.
had to go there, Tundu. Why? You had to go there.
That is that because they're both her children.
Yes.
I mean, real children, really.
You had to go there.
In
Dr.
dramaturgy, we'll classify this as a tragic comedy. If you look at it, there are elements of tragedy. A woman who lost her daughter 20 years ago.
Yes.
And gave up and decided to go and adopt his son. And then somehow, the two found themselves. She found her daughter, and it turned out that the son that she had adopted, was the groom. And then it ends happily thereafter. So the polarity of the story is from tragedy to comedy. So it's a tragic comedy. Plays that have happy endings are usually classified within that dramatic genre. And then, of course, if you look at it from a superstitious perspective, and I'm looking at it from the Yoruba, cultural, approach, they often talk about how blood calls to blood. I mean, how on earth did it just happen that the boy that the woman adopted ended up helping her to go and discover
Find her own long
lost daughter. So there's that romanticism, that romantic element in this classical, story that will make a good stage play. So I'm not surprised that we're all excited. And look at that element, that dramatic element of surprise, of discovery, the birthmark. Okay, so it's a classical, tragicomic. Enactment.
It just shows that she's been looking for her daughter.
It's something we're seeing in real life.
Yes.
And there are many plays. There's this popular Chinese drama or film titled Lost Found. There's another play titled Missing. So this is the classical plot for a dramatist in real life.
Absolutely.
To show how, life imitates art.
Yes.
And there is a convergence at some point.
Thank you very much. I hope you guys enjoyed what's trending today.
Thank you.
That's a really positive, happy note to end it on.
Yes. Thank you, Rufai. See you guys tomorrow.